Hello, everybody. Oh my goodness, I just finished a workout, so sweaty. And let me just say, if you have never, well, let me put it this way. If you have been a skeptic of getting fit and working out from home, I was there. I didn't think that working out from home would work for me, being a former athlete and just, I don't know, being accustomed to more what I thought dynamic workouts and just going to the gym and taking classes and all of that. I didn't think that I could actually get results from home in 30 minutes, right? Just consistency every day, 30-minute workouts, dynamic workouts, meaning I just have different trainers that I can watch and just push play and do a workout. And I am telling you, like, they challenge me so much, but I love it because it's the one area of my life where I can just show up, challenge myself. I can't always anticipate what the move is, and it feels awesome. All that to say, though, while I'm working out, kind of like when I'm in the shower, when I'm driving, awkward times, I get hit with inspiration and a word. So I thought today that I would come and share this before I shower and get in the midst of other things. So I wanted to talk about this phrase that we hear a lot, which is just let it go. Let it go, right? Of course, we heard it from Frozen too, where it took it way left, right? But this idea, just let it go, shake it off, right? Like on the surface, yes, like that could be an awesome phrase. That could be a great piece of wisdom, a wonderful piece of advice on things like not taking things personally, not being easily offended, not letting anybody have the power to kill, steal, or destroy your joy, right? On the surface, yes. But when it comes to processing some really deep emotions and feelings and events that have happened in our life, if we just say let it go, that can be dangerous, actually. And I know this from experience because what it does is it just trains us really to push things down or just to forget about it, but we don't forget about it. And unless it gets healed, it's going to be triggered, it's going to come up. I know that a lot of times we don't know what we know until we experience it. We don't know how much we've healed until we've been triggered and we don't have the same kind of reaction, right? But if we are triggered, whatever comes out of us is something that was in us. So if anger comes out, if frustration comes out, if fear comes out, that was something that was in us. And just saying, just let it go, doesn't get rid of it. So unless it's actually processed, unless it's actually released, unless we're actually healed from it, let it go is not something that is just a Band-Aid for the situation, okay? So I want to walk through this and back it up with some science, but also the word, right? So, da da da. And I also want to highlight here too that God is a God of emotion, right? We see that in different instances. In the example of Jesus, one of the ones that people love to bring up is that Jesus wept, right? Meaning he knows any pain, any experience that we could ever experience, Jesus knows. Okay, so a couple of scripture that I'll use to back this up, and then I'll bring some science into this. Proverbs 29:11, a fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. Okay, so this means not speaking out of emotion, not just letting all of this reaction out. It's being able to respond, right? Being able to give a word in season, right? Rather than just letting it loose, because we can't take words back, right? And those can cause a lot of damage. Proverbs 15:18, just read Proverbs basically, but Proverbs 15:18 says, a hot-tempered man, an angry man, stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger quiets contention. Okay, so this is highlighting to me that if we suppress emotion, if we push it down, if we push it down and repress it so much to the point where we don't even recognize what it is that we're feeling, bursts of what we call frustration, but frustration forced down even further comes up as anger. So that can come out if it's not addressed. Okay. Ecclesiastes is a really great one. Ecclesiastes 3:4, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance. This is a way to make peace with the season that you're in. So if you are in a emotional season, if you are in a season of grief, if you are in a season of loss, if you're in a season of transition, right? There's a time for it, but it's not permanent. So that can instill some hope. And then this is one that I really enjoy. It's Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. So we really amp up the strong. We love being strong, right? And we can get good at being strong, but sometimes we need to be better at being courageous. Being courageous is feeling what you're feeling and working through what you're feeling, right? Being able to speak your feelings and communicate what's on your heart, right? That's courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Dun, dun, dun. And then this is the last one I'll share. 2 Corinthians 10:5. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive to obey Christ. So a lot of times we have a thought, okay? And if we keep thinking this thought, it can have a strong hold on our mind and it can actually get rooted and planted in our hearts. And how you can recognize it is out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak, right? So you can really see this at work by what you're speaking, by what you're talking about, by what you're fixating on, by what you're ruminating on, by what you're allowing your mind to be occupied with, by what you're allowing your imagination to piece together, right? So if we get caught up in emotion, if we suppress things, if we don't get in the habit and practice of daily being transformed by the renewing of our mind. Renewing our mind is a daily, right? If you've ever seen weeds grow, they grow really fast. Like you'll pull one day and the very next day there's a weed there. So we need to take every thought captive, and that is a mental discipline, right? And as we do that, we are being transformed. So all of these lies, all of these beliefs, all of these things that are making us feel bad, that are actually putting momentum in place that is against what we're about, right? Momentum that is not aligned with truth is not a fun journey, right? That's a turbulent journey. That's a scary journey. That's a stressful journey. It's an overwhelming journey, right? And it can get tricky and really fast. Whatever you put momentum on, it's going to build, right? So if we're not renewing our mind and we're not thinking right, then we're not going to feel right. And we're going to let all this stuff build in our heart. And it's a matter of time before we have some sort of breakdown, right? Or until we try to numb that or figure out how we can deal with it without processing it. A lot of times we want to just run from what we're feeling and we can't just let it go. We think we let it go. Sometimes we think just by throwing up ultimatums and moving things out of our life that we've let it go. It's not physically here. Yeah, but what is the imprint on your soul, right? What is the imprint on your thoughts? What are the thoughts that you keep thinking? What are the emotions? What is your emotional home? Where do you live emotionally every day, right? If you live in survival mode every day, you can't shift into thriving because you're not renewed for it. You don't have the capacity for it. You have the capacity to survive, but you don't have the capacity to thrive. And that's something that starts in your soul first, right? You get your soul to submit to your spirit, to align with your spirit, to take spirit-led action, right? And as you really get into the habit and practice of doing that, you have a new mind, right? You're renewed in your mind. Then you start to feel differently. You start to live in a whole different realm of feelings, right? It's a totally different life to live in faith than fear, right? You start to really keep a pure heart so these things don't get rooted in there, right? You start to speak life because then you know the power of your word, right? And you have a different capacity, okay? You prepare the way for the Lord to show up. But a lot of times when we just say, again, let it go, we're not letting it go. We're letting it fester, okay? So let me bring some science to this and just context. I really believe in just breaking generational curses and breaking patterns off of my life, right? And that's been a upward battle. That's been a really hard journey, but it's one that I'm committed to because I'm committed to a different kind of legacy. So this work is really, really valuable. It's beyond just feeling your feelings, okay? So what does it even mean, okay? processing your feelings, your emotions. It's learning how to sit with uncomfortable emotions, learning how to sit with, learning how to recognize it, learning to identify what it is you're feeling. What's the root of that? Is it rooted in fear of something? What's the core belief? What's the lie that you're hanging on to? It's really identifying that so that it can be released, so that that's no longer keeping you in bondage and literally a prison in your soul, right? So here's a couple of things that I want to highlight. So 24/7, we already have a test of just our emotional stability, right? A lot of times we're like this, right? Then you can throw a global crisis in the mix, and our routines, our social lives, our financial security, our sense of safety, all of that starts shifting, right? And so for many of us, we're feeling way more than we recognize. We're processing so much information, and we're drowning in a myriad of all these feelings, and we have no idea what to do with them. So we'd rather not slow down. We'd rather not be still. We'd rather not look at it. And I get it. I had to go through I think it was like a 2-year yoga teacher training just to train myself to sit. All I knew how to do was go, 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 go all the time. Literally, that's all I knew how to do. So when you train yourself to sit, it's a totally different experience, okay? So context, again, on one hand, inherently we know the importance of processing our feelings, right? And we can recognize that when we have these sort of like out of the blue emotional reactions, that we've probably been letting that build for a minute, right? That didn't just come out of left field. It started somewhere and it never got addressed, right? So many of us, though, have been conditioned to avoid our feelings. We've been conditioned to only feel like 2 feelings, and the other ones are unacceptable, right? So women, for example, this is Carla Marie Manley, a clinical psychologist and author from Joy from Fear. And she says this: women are generally trained to avoid any emotions other than joy or a moderate degree of sadness. But there is a whole realm of emotions in between joy and sadness, right? It doesn't help that we're not given, I don't know about you, but we're not given formal education and understanding what it means to process our emotions and utilize our emotions in a positive way, right? So it's a lot like being expected to jump in the deep end when it comes to swimming lessons, right? If you've ever been a swimmer, you know also what I'm talking about. They literally do just throw you in the pool. So a lot of us, just because of lack of knowledge, right? Lack of training, misuse, underuse, and ignore our emotional world. And our emotional world is literally the energy that we're putting in motion every day. So it is so important when it comes to leadership, when it comes to legacy, when it comes to breaking generational curses, when it comes to having healthy long-term relationships, when it comes to interacting with people, to really get a handle on your emotional intelligence, right? And how to process in healthy ways for you, because this is a personal thing. Okay. So if we don't, I'm sure you probably know this, but if we do not process our feelings, if we just ignore them, if we just let it go, if we just shove it down and pretend like it's not bothering us, we train ourselves to pretend. And then we also are led to unhealthy behaviors because we're not designed to carry all of that weight. Okay. So it could be stress eating, drinking too much, shutting people out, sexual addictions, lashing out on people, just ugly, uncomfortable things, right? So you're getting the idea. And what I shared today in a post actually is that emotions are indicators of how safe, stable, and secure we feel. Okay. So if we're not rooted and grounded in our identity, if we don't have a spiritual practice, if we are just inundating ourselves with the news, which is meant to elicit negative emotions out of us, if we are just keeping busy and working and pushing, if we have no ways to release, no ways to process, it's just a matter of time before we're literally destabilizing ourselves, right? And we're feeling super insecure, and we just are not creative. We just can't function optimally. We're literally in survival mode, right? So some of the things that I shared today that are really helpful for me, I don't know if you can see this. This is on, can you see this? There we go. There's the God's Vibes Matter devotional there. I got it right here too. So I shared about this devotional and other ways that I just really have found in time to process emotions rather than ignore. It is really easy actually to ignore, to put aside, to not deal. And sometimes we do need to compartmentalize our feelings for the moment, but there still needs to be a way to release them, to process them, to have space to do that, right? So for example, in a work environment, that's not the place where you get easily offended and you vent all your cares and concerns. It's not where you do it, right? But you still need a place to process. So something that I love doing, not love, but it's become a practice. Some days are better than others, but I enjoy having what is called, Julia Cameron is an author who called it the artist date. And it's just, I've literally trained myself to do this. I get a giant planner. This is my new one for 2021. And there's just days on here, and I will block out a day, and I'll usually do it like the month, just show you like a month. So I'll get a planner like this too, where you can actually see the dates, and I will literally block out dates with myself, which is non-negotiable me time, where I'm able to process and just do whatever it is that I need. So just having an outlet helps me show up in this space knowing that I'm going to have a dedicated space to process. So if you are like a doer and you've got a lot going on, that's sometimes a way to do it. It's just a time where, again, you're not really accessible to people. You put your phone on airplane mode. You just get away just to think about what you're thinking about, to journal, whatever you got to do. But I recommend exploring different ways to process your feelings and determine what styles work best for you. Try them out for a while. You kind of need at least, I would say at least 3 weeks to figure out if something is really catching for you. But here's some of my favorites. So I love having devotional time with God because so much is revealed to my spirit in that time. I'll get the word out, and I've made in this devotional kind of like a worksheet to process, because I am practical and logical sometimes. And I found that God speaks to me in the way that I process. So this has been really, really helpful. And this right here is just a 30-day journey that you can go through and just practice devoting yourself. And what's helpful about this is just being able to turn from the lies, recognize what the lies are, recognize what you're partnering with on a daily basis so you can catch it quicker. So I love devotional time, journaling, prayer, meditating on the word of God, because then I can easily see like, oh, that's not the thought that I need to be thinking. I need to take that thought captive, or I need to declare this over my life and activate my faith. Visualization, visualizing what I do want versus what I don't. I need to be able to jumpstart myself, right? I need to be able to stop thinking the negative stories and literally discipline myself to start seeing what it is that's true. Whatsoever is lovely, whatsoever is praiseworthy, whatsoever is noble, think on those things. That's what the word says. So I need to train myself to do that, just like I'm training myself to work out. And if I can give myself 30 minutes to work out my body, I at least need to do that for my mind every day. Okay. Journaling, therapy. I recommend therapy because therapy, you can get a lot of really great homework. You get a space where you can talk out what's going on, because sometimes just getting it out and hearing yourself talk, or having somebody mirror and hold up to you or ask you some really poignant questions, is incredibly revealing and healing. And if nothing less, it gives you a language to explain and articulate what you're experiencing and help communicate that to people in your world. Coaching, really, really powerful as far as getting to A to B and getting some tools for breakthrough, and to really get some tools just in your environment. One of the things about being in this global crisis, I have been developing tools for years, and it was just a call to use the tools. I can't imagine what it would be like to not have any tools at all, right? Because I can see how important they are. Now I'm able at the place that I am now to call on them when I need them, but it's still a struggle, right? And it's still a commitment. So coaching is really great for that. Small groups are really important, being able to have accountability and people holding you accountable to what it is that you want to focus on, and calling you and checking in with you and going through a study sometimes, but just a group that meets to give life and do life together is really important. So I make sure in different seasons that I have that in my life, right? Nature, getting out in nature, going for a walk, breathing in oxygen, just exposing yourself to different surroundings, being in motion helps sometimes. And then retreats. I love retreats. And so the way that I've processed now in a time like this is having mini retreats. So I might go and get my nails done and just be really present in that time and be like, oh my gosh, this feels so good, right? Having this warm water on my feet, or just like being taken care of and just experience that, or receiving care, right? If you're somebody that's a giver, it's nice to receive care. Getting massage and just like letting all of that extra go, just booking a staycation and spending a day somewhere, literally taking a mental health day, making that a part of your work week. Doing half days, right? Communicating that, of course, to whoever needs to know, taking half days so that you can go, and then have just this unapologetic rest and relaxation time. Scheduling time with people that are important so that you have that in your schedule, right? What else is a retreat? Getting my hair done sometimes, like having somebody, take care of your hairs. Being able to do a guided meditation of some kind, having different times where technology is shut down. Like I take things that I've learned from retreats and I bring that into my world, right? You don't have to physically go to a retreat to train yourself to experience that. And I try to keep my environment a very calm, peaceful environment that's very neutral. I don't have like clutter. I don't even have a ton of pictures of people. Like anybody could come in here and just feel like it could be a little retreat place for them. And I like that. Having plants and things, just being able to breathe. I love my essential oils, having those going throughout the house, just burning some candles sometimes, just facilitating a calm time, doing prophetic soaking. So having prophetic words just washing over me in my environment, right? So whatever it is, doing journal exercises, these are some of the favorite things that I like to do to process what is going on. And then usually what happens, I get clarity, I get revelation, I get a word to stand on, I get some guidance, I get an inspired action, right? And I don't get that when I'm just letting it go and pretending like I'm good and just trying to muscle it and just trying to force and push. And I mean, there's a time and place for that, but really God says that he leads in ways of pleasantness and peace. And God can deliver us from emotions, right? He can deliver us from painful memories that we keep rehearsing. He can deliver us from the weight of painful experiences, right? But more often than not, right? Like I know this to be true in my own experience, just having like an addiction break off of me. And addiction could be anything. It could be like these crazy thoughts. It could be like unforgiveness. It could be compulsive eating, drinking, whatever, right? But I had an addiction break off my life, but I still had a process. So I woke up and I literally had no desire for the addictive habit, right? And I'm like, well, that's strange. But I had a process to walk out, a growth journey to go through, a healing journey to go through, because essentially any addiction is trying to numb you from feeling and processing. So what I knew and what I was afraid of was that if I am delivered from this addiction in my life, then what? That's going to open up so much space that addiction was taking. And it's going to mean that I have to feel and process things. And I'm afraid to do that. But I couldn't do that until God was in my life. Until I was saved, I could not do that, right? I could read so many books. I could talk to all the counselors. I could do all the things. But without the deliverance of God, there's no way. And without the support and strengthening of God, the renewing of God, the process that God walked me through, and it was things like going on a no sugar diet. It was things like getting rooted in a recovery ministry. It was things like being consecrated. So clearing off my calendar. So I had more time to sit in the word and study and just let God talk to me, which I didn't even know was possible, right? Just developing relationship with God. So there was things that God gave me to fill up that space, right? So my encouragement to you on today is to consider how you might be using the let it go statement just as a blanket statement, just as a band-aid. And underneath that are so many things that actually need to be faced, right? Because we cannot fix what we won't face. And we will continue to repeat patterns. We will continue to manifest these really unhealthy behaviors. We will continue to perpetuate curses, curses of rejection, curses of betrayal, curses of insecurity, curses of alcoholism, curses of drug addiction, curses of just different sins, right? And we will perpetuate that if we don't get still and know, if we don't repent and turn from the things that we know are not right. And a lot of times we're in denial. A lot of times we play dumb, right? A lot of times we say, oh, it's not that bad, or I did let it go. I'm good, right? Our soul is screaming, but I'm good, right? But you're not good, right? Everything's out of control, but I'm going to pretend like I'm in control. You're not in control. You're not God, right? So sometimes emotional processing just comes from realizing that you're not God, and you need God in your life to do this life, because this life is hard, right? So for what it's worth, now that my sweat is drying, I need to go shower. But for what it's worth, I hope this message blessed you. If you want to get this devotional, you can find it at julianapage.com. Super helpful. There's other books there too about reclaiming your spiritual authority, co-laboring with God, really just developing your spiritual life and really stepping into living a spirit-led life. What else? You can visit julianapage.com. I have a self-mastery course over there, which is really powerful when you are doing some processing work, not necessarily just emotional work, but this deep inner work of recognizing who it is that you are, what it is that you're called to, how to walk that out. So important. So really how to let God guide and provide in every area of your life and invite him into every area of your life, and giving you practical tools and homework and guides to help you do that. It's 6 weeks, super powerful, something I revisit often. So you can go check that out. It's called You 2.0. I also have coaching programs. So if you're interested in working together, I usually hop on the phone with you so that you can ask all of your questions and we can really get clear on what it is that you want to work on, and just assess too if we're a really good fit. So that's really important to me. But you can go fill out a form so that we can hop on a call and connect. And if this message blessed you, let me know. I would love to just be able to pray over you. Also, if this is resonating with you or somebody's coming to mind, copy the link and share it with a friend. And you can always subscribe to this channel. Please subscribe to this channel. It would be such a blessing if you would do that and help get these messages out. And I also release several new messages throughout the week, usually about 5. So you'll be the first to know anytime a new message comes out. All right, guys. Again, I hope this message blessed you. And until next time, stay blessed. Bye.